So, hello and welcome to Selling the American Dream. This is a showcase of Adam Matthews' American consumer culture resources. So we'll be looking at two primary source collections today, Market Research in American Business and the newly published Trade Catalogues and the American Home. So trade catalogues have been a prominent feature in commerce and manufacturing from the 18th century through to the present day. They're highly illustrated and they're an essential visual record of a variety of products. As well as the history of marketing, business and technology, they facilitate teaching and research into popular culture, material culture, art, fashion, design, and also attitudes towards race and gender and societal changes. This resource offers access to thousands of digitized trade catalogues and cards, which cover the period 1850 to 1950. Now, if you're new to an Adam Matthews resource, this bar at the top is your main point of navigation around the resource. And if I drop it down here, these introductory pages, the nature and scope, for example, will tell you a little bit about what's covered in the resource. It will also tell you about our selection process. There's also Take the Tour that tells you something about functionality. And you can also come and have a look at the libraries and archives that have partnered us for this project. So our idea with this resource was to try and focus on the domestic, on selling to the American home. So the choice of material and partner in archives reflects this. Now, normally at this point, I'd go straight into the documents, but today I wanted to start by going to the Explore tab on the website. The pages in this section of the resource offer routes into the material and contextual information. There are links here to additional features that will be particularly important to students new to the topics covered, as they provide some background and introductory information. So we have essays written by leading academics. These are on themes related to the documents. There's also information on the businesses that we cover in the resource, and an interactive chronology that helps to put the events into a wider context and perspective. Where I really want to go, though, is to this industries page. So the collection has been built around these 18 industries. Every document is tagged with one of these, and they constitute a significant field in our metadata. So given the importance of this field, I would suggest that people new to the collection start on this page. If we click one of the industry titles, you'll see that there's a short piece of text defining that industry, and it also provides links to some example documents in the main resource. So if we click one of these links, we get taken to the document. So the first page that we get to is a document details page, and this shows you all of the metadata that we've collected for this document. All of this is fully searchable, and you'll see that some of it is also hyperlinked. Now, the links under document type and industry, if you click on those, you'll be taken to a full list of the documents tagged with that term in the resource. So we can click on document type, and we get a full list of all of the manuals and how-to guides in the resource. If I return to this page where we were before, you'll also see that there's links under brands, places, and keywords. Now these work in a slightly different way. If you click one of these, you'll be taken to either that term in the original document or terms that are related to it as well. So in this case, I clicked dairy, and here highlighted in the original document, we have butter. So once you're in the image viewer, you can zoom in and out. You can also switch between pages using these arrows here. Alternatively, you can move to the next or the previous hit from your search using these arrows. And you can also toggle this into full screen to get a better view of the document. So you'll see here that we've got a recipe and some tips for baking a wedding cake, which uses Betty Crocker's white cake mix and Betty Crocker's fluffy white frosting mix. Really nice full-coloured scans that we've got of all of the documents in this resource as well, which are highly visual. So that's one way into the documents. Another way of working with them is to use the search directories. So you'll find a link for this up in the top right-hand corner. So here you'll find links to all of the keywords, companies, brands, and places mentioned in the metadata that we've collected. So if you're interested in Betty Crocker as a brand, you could click Brands, go to B. If you then add it to your right-hand list, you can search for all the documents related to Betty Crocker. And you can add as many or as few terms as you want to this right-hand list. And as soon as you're ready and happy, if you click Search, and here we get taken to documents tagged with Black & Decker. Now you can filter any document list or search results list using the options on the left side. Alternatively, you can reorder the list using these column headings. Or of course, you can just click into a document that takes your interest. Now, at the start of the webinar, I did mention how useful these documents are for tracking issues of race, gender, societal change, culture, and fashion. And I think this catalogue gives a really good impression of this. As I click through it, you'll hopefully get an idea of what I mean. It's material that gives an insight into definitions of fatherhood and masculinity in the mid-20th century. To be honest, I don't think it's changed all that much. Got an array of shirts and ties and some rather fetching shorts. The convenience and speed of paying with credit is also mentioned on every page as well. I find that quite interesting. And midway through this particular item, we do get onto the Black & Decker tools and other things that were associated with Father's Day. So barbecue, we've got some charcoal here. I really like the crossover with branding as well. So this isn't any old charcoal, this is the Cadillac of charcoal. And of course, anybody reading this would immediately know the connotations of that and what that meant. Now, if you really want to see how branding and marketing both shaped and reflected prevailing social and cultural attitudes and ideas, the second resource being showcased today is also going to be helpful. So this is Market Research in American Business, 1935 to 1965. It consists of a complete digital run of the market research reports of Ernest Dichter. He was the foremost marketing consultant and researcher of his day, using in-depth qualitative studies as well as traditional surveys to investigate the psychology of people as consumers. And his research touched on much more than just this. It also informed politics as well as private enterprise. Now, just to show you some of the links between the two resources, we were looking at Betty Crocker as a brand earlier, and we can do that in this collection as well. So here we have 113 documents tagged with the brand Betty Crocker. Again, you can filter using the left-hand column, or you can rearrange the list. If I click on this first document, what you'll see is that in clicking on Betty Crocker, you've performed a search, and you'll get full text search results in these little snippets at the bottom of the page. But you can also expand using the Show Details box to see the metadata as well at the top of the page. There's also other documents that this report is linked to. Now in the document itself, Dicta's team, if we have a look at this, they start off by talking about what their research methods are. So they outline the task and they talk about how they gather statistics, what the survey size is. And I've clicked on this page because while they're doing this, right at the bottom here, they mention that due to the particular character of the Betty Crocker problem, considerable time was spent investigating the respondents' attitudes toward their roles as women, their attitudes toward homemaking, and then their attitudes towards Betty Crocker. Now it should obviously be emphasised that the responses don't come to us firsthand. We're reading them later in the report through the kind of prism of Dicta's study and what Dicta was interested in. But documents like this still provide an insight into views of gender roles and psychology at the time, and how they were used to market products. If we just go back a few pages, we can use this bar at the top. So here we have the contents page. And you'll be able to see from the contents that the report looks at how women view Betty Crocker as a character and how they react to that. But we can also see that it touches on things such as the psychology of cooking and what it means to be a woman at the time. And this is all set against the background of Dicta's assumption, which does actually get mentioned later in the report, that cooking is an entirely feminine activity. So again, it's interesting to see Dicta's take on gender roles. So across the two collections, there is the background to marketing campaigns, the report studies and social and cultural assumptions in Dicta's work, and the end marketing products, the catalogues and trade cards that we saw in the first resource. And both are really useful in their own right, but combining the two is especially helpful. Now, if you do have access to both of the resources, you can actually search across them both. So there's this button at the bottom of the screen on every page in the two resources, American Consumer Culture. If you click into here, you'll find a wrapper that kind of brings this material together into one place. So if you click on collections, you'll have an introduction to the two of them, just a brief bit of blurb about each of them here. You can also go to documents, and this will give you a full list of all of the documents in both resources. And then there's the Explore tab, which lets you have a look at the additional features in both of the resources. So there's links to all of the additional features here, as well as a bit of blurb about what they actually are. And the other thing you can do is search across both collections. So here in the advanced search, what you can do is choose to search in a particular field of the metadata. You can put in a date range, you can add filters, you can look at our popular searches here. You can also do things such as put in 2 keywords and then ask to only have results returned where those keywords appear within a particular number of words of each other. And you can also perform a very basic keyword search if you prefer. So here we have a couple of hundred documents that have all been tagged with Chrysler. Now when you get your search results, you've got the full list of documents here. but you can also choose this pie chart view. And this will tell you a little bit more about your results. So we can see that the vast majority come from the 20th century, and also the majority of them come from market research rather than the trade catalogues resource. There's also this frequency tab. So what this does is plots your results against time. And what you see here in blue is the number of documents for each year that have been returned in the search, and in red the number of full text hits that have been returned for each year in your search. You can also at this stage choose to narrow your search down if you want to. So if we were interested primarily in the 1920s and 30s, we could narrow that down. And then we have our new list of documents here. If you click into one, what you'll find initially is a kind of overview of the metadata that we've collected for this document, so you can get a better idea of what it contains and which resource it's in. But if you're interested in it, you can click View Document. And again, it takes you to this page where you can see the search results at the bottom of the page. And we've got the metadata at the top of the page again. If you click on the thumbnails at the top of the page, that's another way to get to the document images. So here we have Chrysler. Marketing their cars to women. And this page mixes luxury and affordability. So here you have Lady Mendel in her charming home at Versailles, and she's telling the reader what she wants to see in a motor car. But notice that it also emphasizes low price, not just luxury. So this is affordable luxury from Chrysler. And buying affordable luxury makes somebody particularly smart as well. That's really what they're going for here. Now if we close this window, we get returned here to our search results from earlier. I'm just going to close this one down. Just scan down, because there's also a report from, there's reports from Ernest Dichter in here as well, so psychology of car buying. A couple of reports on the psychology of car buying. So here you can see, just then we were looking at a marketing catalogue for Chrysler. Well, here in the second resource, we find a report that was written by Dichter for Chrysler, the psychology of car buying. And again, we can click View Document to be taken into it. So this document is about why people buy cars and why they choose a particular brand. Here we are at the start. I actually want to jump to a particular page in here. To have a look at this. So here we have a quote from a survey that Dichter did from someone he describes as an immigrant car buyer. My son drives most of the time and is a passionate driver, and I believe myself that it is an external sign for a real American to own a car. Every American from his early youth strives to get a car. He goes on to say, though it may be old and shabby, that doesn't matter, it is still a car. As an immigrant, it is our duty to merge or emerge, and the ownership of a car just goes with that. So I wanted to show this quote because I think that it does summarize the two resources so well. They're about business, they're about marketing, and they are about consumerism, but they're also about so much more. They're about what it meant to be a woman or a man, and in this case, it's somebody talking about what they believe it means to be American. And it's so wrapped up in this kind of consumer society as well. So in this sense, these are really important social and cultural documents, as well as records of how to sell the American dream. Now, I appreciate that we did start a bit late, so I don't want to carry on too much longer. The only thing that I did want to say is that there are ways to save interesting documents that you find. So if it's a particular image that you're interested in, you can click to download it as a PDF, or you can click to add it to your Lightbox. I'll explain what that is in a second. And if we go back to the document itself, again, you can download the whole thing as a PDF or as an image range, or you can add it to My Archive. Now, what My Archive and My Lightbox do is save images and documents for you to use later. So when you click on it, you'll get taken to a place where you can set up your own archive, just input a few bits of information, register, and then you can save documents and images to your archive in Lightbox for later use.